during
Yes,
the conversation.
doctor, you got to understand. It's not just me. It's Kevin. It's Melton. It's everyone. They're
No,
all
I don't lie. I don't
all
lie.
All of you.
No.
All
That's a
of
lie.
you.
No, that's a lie. Chad's saying Chad. He puts everyone on this umbrella of we all lie, we all make up shit. That way he's protected because everybody lies. I don't fucking lie.
You don't think Carl in Rochester lies?
What?
You don't think Carl in Rochester lies?
I think we all lie.
You're talking about isolate. Your whole coping thing is everybody lies, so it's okay if you lie constantly because everybody lies. Everybody doesn't lie constantly.
But the fact that you're pinpointing me as the liar when everyone else is lying.
You pride yourself.
Everyone. Ray DeVito lies every 5 fucking seconds.
Adam doesn't lie. Adam doesn't lie.
Okay, Adam.
I mean...
We're doing it. I think it's official. We're doing it. Uncle Melty, I think that's Melton. I think Melton's sniping the show. He said he was going to snipe.
He is. He's very lonely. He's very lonely.
He's sniping. I think Stuttering John's sniping. So I don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen today. I'm like a child at Disney World for the first time.
I wore a tie, Kevin.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice.
I want to, because, this guy has a PhD. He's busted his ass. He's worked his ass off. He's sacrificed. And I see these two fucking idiots make a joke out of it. I want to take this serious. So I dressed up.
Okay. Members only first of all, members only in the chat. And I'm only going to, you got to be $20 or higher for me to, I guarantee I'll read the super chat. I can't be reading every $2 super chat. No offense to the $2 people, but it's like when the doctor's here, I almost said therapist. When the sorcerer is here, sometimes we get backed up, and then I can't. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, go ahead. The floor is yours, doctor. You got any questions?
Yeah, sure. So just wanted to address it's okay. You can call
Wait,
me.
Adam, hold on. Who's sniping us? See if is Chad sniping us?
Yeah.
See if Melton's sniping us, and see if Stuttering John's sniping.
Yeah,
us.
I'm checking right now. I can pretty much say Melton is.
Well, I got to tell you, as an aside, 3 or 4 people in your world have reached out to me for possible kind of treatment and therapy. A lot of people watch this show,
so we're helping people too.
Like actors and comedians. It's pretty incredible. I don't know how they found me, but a lot of people watch this show.
Does KB get a referral?
So they're reaching out for help or just a quick fix?
No, to see if I'd be their psychiatrist. Big people. I had to say I don't have licenses in California or New York, but there's been a lot of
Brody Stevens.
Oh, too soon.
Yeah.
Does it rhyme with Schmerl Scrankle?
So Chad, to your point about the PhD, I appreciate the dressing up and certainly other end of the spectrum from Ski Mask, but I do have my MD, so I don't have a PhD. I went to medical school for my MD.
Okay, well, either way, you're an important person, and I respect the hard work and sacrifice because we're all a bunch of fucking idiots.
Well,
so a PhD, you don't need a PhD is not to be a psychiatrist and prescribe medications. You don't need to be an MD, or they prefer you're an MD.
You need to be an MD. So you go to medical school.
PhD can't write prescriptions.
I can, yes.
No, a PhD can't.
Oh yeah, no, PhD can't. No.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, because people call them doctor, and they're just a doctor. They have a PhD, which is like nobody's looking for a PhD in a doctor emergency. You know what I mean?
Right, on an airplane, yes.
Right.
But it's 9 years of school. I mean, it's not an easy thing.
A PhD?
Yeah.
Doctor, you look like Adam's older brother.
Chad's coming in hot with the riffs.
I'm going to take it seriously.
So
Listen, nobody said he's not.
So
That's true.
The kind of setting the ground rules before we get started, and I have to ask this each time. I can't and wouldn't ever talk about your kind of history, emotions, analyze kind of our conversation without your express permission. And I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do, but wanted to just make sure that you're okay with us having a conversation about kind of your thoughts, your history, and talking about kind of how we can maybe become experts in you today.
I'm coming to this very open-minded. I really want to help. And if you could see what direction I'm going in and what's wrong with me, by all means, let's do it. Let's figure this out. And if you could, maybe I'll hire you. I don't know. Let's see what happens. I'm all in, and I appreciate all the contributions from everybody else in the audience. Thank you. That's my opening statement.
The good news is I have a lot of ideas, and honestly, truly, the reason that I'm here is I would love it if we learned a lot more about you and became an expert in you. And maybe it can help. And if it's funny along the way, as long as it's not at too much of anyone's expense, I think it's a good thing to do. So where I'd want to start is, I watched the show and know kind of a lot of your history, and I'll say off the bat, I don't really think, we're not going to talk much about the legal issues exactly, because I don't think it's necessarily that impactful from a psychological perspective, more of a kind of happens, chance, and symptoms. But if there is something interesting to talk about, that's a much longer conversation about kind of the criminal mind or the criminal experience. So just ahead of time, we're going to stay away from that. But I wanted to start with something that you mentioned kind of in passing recently, was that your dad was a Vietnam veteran.
My real father, yes.
Yeah. Can you tell me about, I realized I didn't know much history about kind of your biological father, the timeline, kind of, can you tell me a little bit about him and the two of you?
Yeah, well, he left before I was born. He met my mother right
Lucky
after.
him.
Oh, come on. Let me get through this. He met my mother right after Vietnam, and my mom was young. She was 20, and it was a real like fire and gasoline relationship, and they got married like right away. And they were married for like less than a year. And I think my mom like really was into him and was pursuing him. And I think she got knocked up, but I think I don't know that I have a feeling she was trying to trap him, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, no, you're crazy, whatever. I don't know, whatever the situation is to this day. I don't know. And he just left, and I didn't meet him until I was 24.
Okay. And what was a couple things? Do you know what he did in Vietnam?
I don't know exactly. I mean, I don't know what it was, honestly.
If it's related to Chad, he didn't kill.
Ooh.
Get it? Because Chad doesn't kill as a stand-up.
Save it for the roast.
So when you met him when you were 24, what was your impression of him?
Well, it was back when there was phone books, and I was just curious because my middle name's Anthony, and that's his first name. He's Italian, and I found out his real last name. It's not Zumock's my mom's maiden name. So I went through the phone book looking for that last name because I heard he still lived in Ohio, and I called a number, and it turned out to be my aunt, and I told her the whole story. I go, listen, I just want to know about him. I'm not looking for anything. I don't want to hand out. I'm just curious, just want to know what your father is, what he does, what he looks like, all that stuff. And my aunt kind of said, oh, this is great. He's a great guy. He has, 2 beautiful daughters. He's remarried. And she goes, I'll tell you what, I'll tell him what you just told me. Give me your number. If he calls you, then, there's no rejection. It's not weird. I go, that sounds great. He called me the very next day. We set up a meetup. And I remember walking into this restaurant, and as soon as I saw him, I knew it was my dad. Like all the characteristics, bone structure, it was all the same. And it all made sense as soon as I saw him for the first time.
And when you were young, can you tell me when was your stepfather? Was there a stepfather? Kind of who was the male figure taking care of you when you were a kid?
Well, my mom, after I grew up with my grandparents. Like my mom and my grandpa, we all lived in the house. My grandparents died right around when I was 4 and 5. My grandfather died of a heart attack right in front of my face in the kitchen. To this day, I remember you talking to Ray or somebody about having these memories. I remember it like clear as day, him falling to the ground. I was the only one there. I remember he had a can of Rolling Rock in his hand, and it just spilled everywhere. And I'm freaking out, and I'm a 4-year-old kid. And an hour later, my mom comes, and he's dead, and the ambulance came. I'm crying. The very next year, my grandma died from cancer, and we had her home. And I go see her every morning. And one morning, I went in there, and I found her dead. So I saw both my grandparents die. Well, one died and found the other one dead.
So you were sitting in the kitchen with your dead grandfather for quite some time before anyone else showed up.
Over an hour for sure. Yeah.
And did you
I remember that because I remember Hogan's Heroes was on in the background. That's how that clear as day I still remember as a 4-year-old.
And what did you do during that hour?
Cried.
I hear nothing. I see nothing.
Thank you, Adam.
Levy's favorite show.
That's quite the experience. Do you ever have nightmares about that event?
It was so long ago. I mean, maybe when I was younger, but I mean, not for. But I just remember it all. I remember it was snowing out. I remember everything about it.
And you've talked about kind of losing your brother and kind of the trauma involved with that. And certainly we don't have to go through that because I already know that story to some extent. Some of the details that I don't exactly have in my head. How old were you when your brother passed?
Oh boy, in my early 20s, because I was at Kent State University still, and I was working. I forget where I was. I was working at the bookshop or something, and that's where I got the phone call from my neighbor. So like early 20s.
Wait, early? I thought your brother died when you were young, because then your dad stopped hitting you. Said because the coffee guy.
Oh, he stopped hitting my other brother.
No, you said he stopped hitting you after his brother.
Well, he did, but I was already out the house. I hadn't.
How's he going to hit you? You're in college.
I know. I left home when I was 17 as a senior because of the abuse, and I never came back. I declared myself.
You said he was nicer after your brother got run over.
Yeah, he didn't hit my mom or my brother ever again afterwards.
But you made it seem like you were there and he was nicer to you too. He didn't hit you.
He true. Like so I start coming back around again, and he didn't do anything. And
he's not going to hit you when you're 20 years old.
Well, you don't know.
No, you'll beat the shit out of him. A 20-year-old can beat up an older man.
He was a big dude. He was very big.
So outside of the perpetual violence in the household that you've talked about quite a bit, is there anything else particularly kind of impactful, memorable about those years, kind of middle school, the end of elementary school, that was going on in the house?
Well, I think about 1980, my mom went to Texas for 3 years. To this day, I don't know why. My aunt doesn't know, which is her sister, who I'm very close with now. And I was with my other aunt and uncle, and we lived on a farm, 27-acre farm. It was the greatest years of my life because there was I had cousins, swimming pool, dirt bikes, BB guns. It was like the best thing you could. Then she came back, and 3 years later, I didn't want to go with her, and we moved to Kent, Ohio, and it was just me and her until she met my stepfather.
Wow. And so your other brothers are it's part of a separate, a complex family. The brothers you were talking about that are living with you, they're much younger and from the second marriage.
From the second marriage, yeah. My mom met my stepfather because she was working at a bar, and he would come in there all the time, and he basically, wooed her and lied to her. He was actually still married at the time, and he was using her as his mistress, and she had no idea. And he ended up getting busted cheating on his wife, and my mom ended up marrying him and having 2 kids. So it was a good foundation.
I mean, look, it's through the stinkiest fertilizer grow the brightest flowers.
I'm gonna write that down.
You're talking about Chad now?
Well, it's just in general.
Adam, can we name this episode "Stinkiest Fertilizer"?
No.
It's a little wordy. Chad, can I have you just move your mic down just a touch? It's kind of blocking your face.
Yeah, so we can see your tie.
So when you're going through all these kind of traumatic events, if you can think about kind of your thought process when you're in the household, maybe age 13 to 15, what was your role in the house? What did you function as? Were you the guy who kept the peace? Were you a defender? Were you the guy who cleaned up? Were you the guy who avoided the one who wanted to get out and leave? What was your role in the household before you were kind of able to get out of the house?
I was a very good kid. They were very strict. So I was the one who cleaned the whole house. I cleaned everything, dusted, you name it, sweep. And I had to do it every day. If I wasn't playing sports, I was constantly not allowed to go anywhere unless I was playing sports or if it was a school function. So, and if I was at home, I just go to the basement and my whole thing was stay out of the way so I didn't have to run into them.
Gotcha. And would you say that when you were allowed to be social, did you lean heavily on friends, or were you more a guy who isolated?
No, in school, that's where I developed a sense of, that's where I became the funny guys, because that was my escape because I was like, oh, I can make people laugh. I'll just do this.
Well, then what happened?
Things change, Kev. I joined the show, and here we are.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Let me try to sneak some. Deadpool, thank you. Deadpool, of course, thank you. Say hello to Fatty Patty, everybody. Maybe you should fucking talk to Fatty Patty.
Yeah, he needs help.
Yeah, he needs. He's drinking and smoking and
chain smoking.
We worry about him. Hi, Uncle Melty. Thank you, Deadpool. And let me give a shout out yesterday to Panhandler and Broccoli. I don't know. We gave shout outs at the end, but they came in with hundos. And Uncle Stokely, how much to just have the gypsy sorcerer cast a spell that makes Chad disappear? How much does that cost? Do you have different thing like a la carte? Do you have any? I mean, you don't have like anyway.
Well, I have different rates for like a half an hour session, an hour therapy session. I do some biofeedback training where there's some headsets and equipment. So there is some a la carte.
No, but when you talk to a guy, do you say you got to see me for 6 months or can you just do like 10 like a Subway card where you get 10 sandwiches and you get the 10th one free?
It usually like
that.
CBT or ACT, there's like 12 to 14 sessions. Seeking Safety, which we're actually doing a couple modules of that today, is about 14 sessions.
Thank you, Stokely. What a sad day. Not that Chad is on. Well, maybe, but Clint Eastwood passed away. I don't know.
No way.
I just looked that up. I didn't see anything. I just went to his Wikipedia. I didn't see anything. But Burt Young did die. So that's terrible. He's from Rocky. All right, we're caught up in the $20 or higher. Go ahead. Yeah,
so one of the things I wanted to talk about in terms of the impact. So I'm sure, Chad, that you know.
I got confirmation. Clint Eastwood did die.
Wow. So, from who confirmed it?
Died at age 98 in a hospital. It's all over the news.
Wow. It's
all
not
right,
his Wikipedia.
Back to fixing me.
So I think it's pretty clear. An armchair psychologist, anyone. I'm sure, Chad, you understand that you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life.
Yeah, no, I've been, through therapy a lot, and I'm well aware of the trauma. And all of it.
So how do you believe the trauma affects you?
Well, in a lot of ways, there's definitely trust issues. Like, it's hard for me to trust people because, next thing you know, they're stabbing you in the back. They're like texting Nick Swartzen and Jim Brewer, stuff like that. And, it affects me in a lot of areas where I don't want to like play by the rules, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
make my own rules.
I do. So it's interesting that you just said that. So if I summarize, you have issues with trusting too much and being exploited, and then being
that's the same thing Stuttering John says. Why do all these clowns have the same problem? I'm too trusting. Also stupid. Also alcoholics. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. So, and the other end is I kind of make my own way, and in a way, kind of maybe I isolate or I play by my own rules.
Well, because my whole life I had to take care of myself. I left home when I was 17 because of the abuse and wouldn't stay with so I put myself through college. I declared myself independent, and I always had to support myself. I never got a handout. I never got anything from my family or anything. I did it all myself. So it's just survival.
So a very interesting thing happens to everyone who gets traumatized, and trauma, the experiences of trauma are so varied and unique in terms of the memories that you have, the rolling rock on the floor, what you were having for dinner one night that you got physically abused. These experiences are very unique, but the outcome is fairly consistent among human beings. And one of the things that happens that's very, very common is we struggle with our boundaries. So someone who experiences trauma, if you think about an event, like let's say you're in the house and you've had the experience of being hit multiple times by your stepfather. In anticipation of any kind of interaction, we are probably going to lean towards avoiding conflict, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And
can I ask something first? It seems to me that these people, they if they're traumatized, they seem like they since they know they're going to get a beating eventually, not physical, but in one way or another, they're going to get a beating anyway. So do they act out first? I mean, I think I suffer from the same thing. Like I figure showbiz is gonna fuck with me anyway, so I might as well fuck with it first. So does Chad create problems just because he knows everyone's gonna turn on him anyway, or because he anticipates that?
Well, I think Chad and you have very separate things, and we haven't talked about us talking about your history, but I actually think your issue is very much this out of control id or animalistic component developed in a household with brothers. But you and Chad are very different in terms of
Good. That's good news.
Yeah. So Chad, so someone who's been in a traumatic environment is going to avoid conflict ahead of time because they think they're promoting safety. And then whenever conflict happens, especially as you got older, when the conflict would occur, what would you do in response afterwards? So let's say you got hit in the house. What did you do afterwards?
Cry.
Okay.
And
what would you and thinking back, what at the time, what do you wish would have happened right afterwards when you're crying and maybe in your room or whatever else? What do you wish would have happened in response to?
Like, I remember when I was in junior high school, I was small. I played sports, but I was real small. So I would lift weights all the time because my dream was to beat the shit out of them. I swear to God.
Right.
I just wanted to beat them up.
So in response, we hope for justice.
Yes. Justice.
So now we extrapolate that into your day-to-day interactions, and ahead of time you give people the benefit of the doubt, or you are more agreeable, more get along to avoid conflict. And whenever conflict comes, you act out in response, seeking justice, almost reenacting what we wish had happened. So we're too trusting, and then when someone crosses us, we overreact.
So every time I act out online, I'm seeking justice.
Whenever you are responding with anger and exacerbating a response.
So when I sniped Kevin for 4 months for kicking me off the show, I was seeking justice.
It's a reenactment of what we wish we had done at the time of trauma. Because I'd imagine you think about that quite a bit. Maybe at the time, I'm lifting weights. Man, I wish I could beat the hell out of this guy. If he ever raised his hands to me, it would end then, or I'd be safe then.
At one point in my dorm, I thought, I'm just being honest. I never did it, obviously, but I thought about killing him. I wanted to kill him, but I don't like hurting people.
Ooh, someone in your dorm?
No, my stepfather.
And this is the interesting thing. This is very common. You on the front side, you want to hope for the best from people. You don't want to hurt other people. You want to avoid conflict. Just like in the house, before anything happened, you're doing anything. Let me clean the house. Let me be quiet. I don't want to start any trouble. Yeah, you want me to do that? Fine, I'll do it. But once conflict comes, there's this pursuit or seeking justice. And all of it is a pursuit of perceived safety.
So let me ask you this. My stepfather was a big time coffee drinker, and you couldn't talk to him until he had his coffee in the morning. And if you did, he would just hit you. He'd punch you. He didn't care because he was always grumpy until his coffee. To this day, I've never had coffee. Is that me seeking justice?
Well, it could also be a trigger that prompts you to reimagine very kind of distressing memories that you just would rather avoid. So you just said, I'm just not going to deal with coffee. And that, by the way, when it comes to healing from trauma, one of the very straightforward things is finding out all of these triggers that we have and just making objective choices to, if we can, eliminate them from our lives.
Yeah. And another thing is, this is weird. This is all true, though. I hadn't drank until I was 21, and I realized I have problems with alcohol.
Well, you're all caught up now.
Well, yeah, I know I'm in the Hall of Fame, but I would never drink. I was like a clean cut. Like, I wanted to play sports. In my mind, I seriously wanted to walk onto the basketball team. I was never going to, but in my mind, I was like, I'm going to do it. Like, I'd shoot 500 jump shots a day. So I was about health and fitness. And then, I'd start drinking and start getting the reputation in college as the party guy. And I like the attention. You start getting girls, and then it just keeps going and escalating. Next thing you know, you're in your 40s and you're trying to deal with all the problems in your life.
And this is, again, an extension. In some ways, that's just kind of the human experience. It's hard not to get pulled into kind of the attention and evaluation whenever we're being wild, especially in a context where it's normalized like college, especially at a larger college. Certainly it's easier to get lost in that. But another component to this is it then develops into issues with boundaries. So if I asked you what type of boundaries, or do you understand what boundaries are?
Well, explain it just so I know.
Sure.
I think I do.
So boundaries are kind of the limits we put on our relationships with other people. So for example, a poor boundary would be putting a sign outside your house saying anyone can come in and get free food.
That's not good.
And another poor boundary the other direction would be building 20-foot stone walls around your house.
Yeah.
So those are types of kind of imagery for boundaries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's how Kevin books his podcast. Anyone can come in for food. Doesn't matter who you are.
Well, so it's interesting. One of the things that happens when we have poor boundaries are we aren't just someone who has very low boundaries or very high boundaries. When we have trauma, we have alternating boundaries. And the way I talk about it with patients is we have castle walls with screen doors. So on one end, we've got very low boundaries, pay me whatever you want, or I don't care, I'll do the podcast for free and, or whatever, doing you a favor. But then we have very strong boundaries and we push back against people in reaction to what we perceive as a slight. So poor boundaries are actually an inappropriate attempt for us to be loved. So if I put a sign in front of my house saying anyone can come in and eat dinner whenever they want, I'm going to get a lot of attention at first. People will be like, hey, this is great. You're the man. Like, I thanks so much for giving me this free food. Or if I give everyone drinks at a party, hey, this guy's the best. But if that same guy comes every day for lunch or every day for dinner, or that guy always comes to my house and drinks drinks, eventually I'm going to be resentful of him.
Bob Levy.
and then I'm going to isolate and I'm going to push people away.
No, I get that. I know what you're saying. I was joking around, but I understand what you're saying.
I don't really understand. So you're saying Chad is too lenient, is too giving of himself, and then he overreacts when he feels like he's being taken advantage of?
What I'm saying is that, and interestingly, Chad, and this is less as psychiatric kind of dogma, so to speak, but kind of my assessment of kind of humor and analysis of humor as a coping mechanism. I think when you are at your funniest, it's actually embodying kind of this character of trauma. Because there are times in this podcast when you guys are kind of clicking that the loudest that I laugh is when you engage in kind of trauma responses that are, very harmless. But yes, so people who struggle with trauma say yes very easily at first. And then once they, feel taken advantage of, they say no very strongly in response.
Yeah, but doesn't everyone do that?
Yes, but to some extent, people hold better boundaries who don't struggle with trauma. So, someone may say, I'll invite you over to have dinner with us, but I wouldn't necessarily let you eat out of my kitchen every day for free.
So, but does Chad set people up? He acts like he gives so much, but he actually is setting a trap so that he can turn on you?
Not that he can turn on you, but whenever we have too low boundaries in the beginning, we set ourselves up for a situation where we're going to feel exploited. And then when we feel exploited, we respond with anger and isolation.
And that's mostly people who have dealt with trauma as a childhood, adolescence, or something? Yeah,
so when we deal with trauma, we struggle with a feeling of self-worth. Why did this happen to me? Why, there must be something wrong with me because, this guy was beating me up for so many years, or I wasn't strong enough or I wasn't good enough. And Chad, this may even be a little bit too much to ask on a podcast with dozens of hundreds of people listening and watching. But when you were younger, were those ever thoughts that you had? Is there something wrong with me? I wish I was better. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah, I definitely. Why is this happening to me? I never. That's a given. And the other two, I'd have to really think on that. But it would always why is this happening to me? Like I used to pray after these beatings, why is this happening? God, can you make this stop? That's where I would go. It was brutal. And that any excuse I could find, when I started lying is just so I could get away from the abuse. I have to stay after school. We got this project just so I could just not go home.
Okay, let me jump in because I want to just let me read some super chats, but also I want to address the lying thing because that's incredible to me. Friend prices, hat trick Melton is the new Shuley rack me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what I think Melton. I can't even figure out Melton now. It seems like he's doing a lot of work. Furious. After today's show, Dr. 6 Cents. Oh yeah, he actually looks like they say he looked like that actor.
I googled him. Yeah,
that Dr. 6 Cents.
Oh, Haley Joel Osment.
Oh yeah, this is true. After today's show, Dr. 6 Cents will be in bed tonight, clutching a blanket, whispering, "I see fucked up people."
My wife watched the first episode. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, you let her watch it?
She found it.
Oh,
because it was on my browser history, and she walked into my office. And, what is this?
You're throwing your career away.
Borgo, I'll hire him as my shrink only if he kisses me on the lips like Patty Rosbar. We still have a request out for Patty. She definitely.
Yeah, I checked with the board. You lose your license immediately for things like that.
Wow. Bentley, sit back, relax, and pour yourself a drink, Doc. I have a feeling you'll be the one on the couch after this.
Oh, geez. What's that say about me?
This is all good natured. Today there's no fish fillets being eaten, but maybe floor pizza.
God, they have good memories.
I appreciate you dressing up today, Chad. Certainly a very different presentation than Ski Mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ski Mask was trying to send a message that Gavin House. Question for Chad: is that the same shirt you wore for Zoom Court follow up? Own any other shirts?
I don't remember.
What do you mean?
Who knows?
I think it was. It sure looks familiar. I mean, honestly.
All my ties and shirts are in Ohio still at my aunt's.
Mr. Kill Everything. Chad was rightfully beaten up by his stepdad because Chad was putting coleslaw in his morning coffee. Suey, piggy.
Swing and a miss.
They are a handsome couple.
They're ugly. They're both ugly.
We already did this, right?
Yeah.
The Stokely. Is Chad Quadfather? Chad shouldn't even read this at $2. All right, we'll stop after this one.
It's Quadfather.
Is Chad a kleptomaniac, sociopath, or a narcissist?
We should analyze this guy.
Well, I will tell you, actually, the analysis is in the two of your interaction. It's incredible. I wrote like 7 or 8 pages about it. I'm actually seriously thinking about publishing the interaction between someone who's experienced a physical trauma that they've gone through and accepted, and someone who's experienced a psychological trauma and is still processing. It's the reason the two of you work. It's incredibly complex from a psychopathological perspective.
Who, me and Quadfather?
Yeah, it's unbelievable to watch.
I thought you were talking about me and Chad. What a relief. No. Chad and the Quadfather?
Yeah, it's
oh my God, that's interesting.
It's shocking. I rewatched that episode like 11 times.
Wait, say it again. What is it? Because one has physical trauma and the other one has.
So Quadfather had a physical trauma, and I would argue, at least from the couple BYBs that I've watched and him on this show, he is.
You watched that show?
Well, after I saw him on here,
for research,
he seems to very much accepted what has happened to him and processed it and kind of is working through it. And Chad, you and I are talking about today kind of the remnants of these traumas, and that you're still in the process of working through them to some extent. And
I basically, I'm the opposite. I didn't give up on walking. I'm still going to try to walk.
No. I mean, he's accepted that he can't walk and that he's figuring out other ways to get through it.
He's more better adjusted than Chad, is what you're saying, right?
Not better adjusted. He's just in a different place. But Chad's also, I think, more established professionally as a comedian, has been doing this longer and has put more effort into this kind of work. And the dichotomy there and the dialectic of the two opposing characters with the trauma component to them makes every single back and forth when Quadfather says a stupid joke that doesn't really hit, but then Chad's very frustrated that this guy's even allowed on. And I'm laughing hysterically from a kind of seeing how this is playing out psychologically. It's a very, very interesting interaction.
He gave up on walking. You said he just accepted I can't walk. If I was in his position, I would try. I'd find somebody to help me.
But I think the acceptance of trauma is what you and I are going to talk about today. And I think that when someone gets through a traumatic event and the trauma, the effects that they cause, a huge part of it is accepting that it happened and not dwelling on trying to fix it.
All right. You got the whatever to do.
Furious. Can the doctor hypnotize Chad into being a good boy? If that's too hard, how about if he oinks like a pig whenever a bell rings, like a Pavlovian situation?
I like how all these fat people are calling me fat. It's hilarious. It's so funny.
They called me fat too.
It's so funny.
No, I don't. I don't do Pavlovian training.
Chad Dad. Oh, it's Quadfather again. Chad Dad.
$2 chats. This guy's dumb.
Well, the sorcerer likes him. Chad Dad killed. Chad always bombs though. Hack.
I bomb? What was that?
To be fair, I don't like him. I don't think him by himself really works. He works with Chad specifically. Yeah, I haven't seen him work.
You got to partner people up. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I sensed that. I mean, I was surprised, but now that it's a psychological experiment, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm onto something. Stevie Lou, he's another guy. You said you still want to debate Stevie Lou about the effects of weed?
Well, certainly I could be very educational. There's a lot there from a research and scientific perspective. I have a fellowship in addiction psychiatry, so know quite a bit about it.
Furious Chad, why do you think Levy was obsessed with your physical features? Yeah, is that weird, Chad? You think he's just because he's a hack, or you think he's gay for you, or you think he what is that? What was that?
No, it's always like just weird looking dudes that are like, and they're always anonymous. They're always looking like, or they have a potato filter. They're like, I'm like,
no, why did Levy? Why was obsessed with your lips and your ears? And
well, Chad, can I ask you a question? When you're someone who does a lot of crowd work, is a lot of that crowd work observational? Like they see someone in the crowd, then they pick on something that they see?
yes.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
no,
so-
Kevin. He asked the comedian. I'll tell you. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I like how when you said Chad's been doing comedy longer, but you pronounced it kind of wronger. And I was like, yeah, Chad's been doing comedy wronger for a long time. Anyway, yeah, Levy's a hack, and any hack comedian who does crowd work, they just pick out the most obvious thing. If the black guy, he's got a big dick. If he's Asian, he's got a little dick. And Levy does the whole show based on that. So yeah, Levy's a hack. And that's why I was always like, Chad was on the show and he would be like, Chad, what's with your ears? And I'm like, who gives a fuck about someone's ears? But Bob does.
And actually, I think that's a very common kind of way that humans operate. The thing we do most often is the thing we're likely to do next. So if we're always observing people's physical features to comment on professionally, we'd end up doing it in other arenas as well.
Right.
But can you just say Levy's a hack?
So my understanding, and I don't want to take too long on this, but the idea, the theory,
Oh, well, you got plenty of time.
the definition of a hack.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob's lawyers. Hi, Bob's surveillance team. You fucking hack.
Is a hack someone who prioritizes the laugh over anything else, kind of the outcome?
Yes, and it's complete, and the hack is always unoriginal. Always is strictly unoriginal. It's like Shuli Egger, like he watches Carla do the thing on Stuttering John, then he's like, I'll do it. So that's why these guys deserve each other. They're just hacks. They watch other people do it, and then they're like, I'll do it too because someone else is having success with it.
So they're looking for the outcome rather than someone who's not a hack is working on the process, kind of working through a joke and trying to understand what makes something funny or not funny, and actually would rather not get the laugh so they get editing on what their material is to change it.
No, the hack is you're like born gay. You're born a hack. So it's like the hack doesn't think he's a hack, and just like I don't think I'm clever. I don't think I'm a great comic, but I know I'm not a hack because when I watch people, I don't. That's one of the reasons I don't watch comics. Because I don't want to be stealing. I don't want to be influenced by them because I don't want to be a fucking hack. But Shuli and Bob are like, we'll just do. It's just basically like if you open a restaurant. And you're like, we'll just make burgers and fries because we know people like that traditionally. So Bob does the hacky crowd work. Shuli does basically whatever works. He's like, I'll do that too. I mean, I don't know if they think like I'm a hack, but they somehow they convince themselves that they're clever because they're doing. It's basically like I said, a cover band. Like Shuli will think he's doing a better version of what Carl's doing. And then Levy will convince himself he's the best at crowd work because that's just what he does. You know, you never see like comics. There's never a comedy contest about who can do the best crowd work because nobody really cares. And it doesn't play really in show business or on TV. I mean, you're never going to watch Netflix doesn't give out crowd work specials. I mean, people do crowd work specials now just because it's easy.
Todd Barry do one, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy, and you don't have to write any material. So people are doing that more, but Netflix is not going to give someone a crowd work special because it's just not original, and it's for the most part extremely hack.
So can I ask you guys really quick? If you've got 3 comedy shows in a row, right? Would the hack prefer that they all laugh at all 3, whereas a comedian or not a hack would rather kill at the last one, learning from the first 2 which jokes worked and which ones didn't?
I know. I'll speak for all comedians now. I never. No, I'm kidding. I'm just speak for myself. I don't think comics really ever think about like this show or that. It's always this show. Whatever this show is, they're never thinking, oh, this is good. It's good that I bombed because I learned something about that joke. You don't really think of it that way. It's just you're on stage. You got to have a good show. You'll do hacky things in the course of a set or the course of a headliner set to get the laugh, to get an easy, cheap laugh, but you don't base your whole career on it like Levy does and like Shuley does. So it's like a hack is everybody knows the hacks. Like if you're a comic and you're not respected as a comic, it's probably because you're a hack. So, but for the most part, hacks don't do well. Like, Levy never worked in the clubs in New York because he's a hack. Nobody wants to see an old man do crowd work where they want to see original material because that's just the nature of show business. You got to constantly come up. I mean, Louis C.K.'s had like 10-hour specials. They're not all great, but he's not a hack. He's never going the cheap route to get a laugh. He's always challenging himself and or the audience because that's, to answer your question, that's probably what most comics want. They want to challenge themselves and the audience, have like more jokes that are more clever. Like if you have a joke that's clever that you think is a good joke and the crowd likes it, those are the best jokes. The jokes that challenge yourself, challenge the crowd. Whereas a hack like Shuley or Bob, they don't care about that. They're always going for the cheapest, hackiest, cheap laugh.
Yeah, like my closers, like I say, drink and drive. They're not going to catch us all. Like that's like what I close on, and I'm proud of that.
That's one of my jokes, and Chad said everyone does it.
Everyone.
I've never seen. I've never seen anybody else do it.
I'm Jason Lawhead. I'll start naming all the names.
All the Florida hacks that you pal around with. Furious, thank you. Lies have started already. We should have gotten an electric dog collar to zap them. Yeah, let's do to the lies thing because Chad's kind of famously a liar, and I'm sure it's a coping mechanism, but it's still Adam has a clip of Chad saying, "I know what I said and it's not true." It's kind of a famous
Here it comes.
Hold on, I'm dealing with
Jesus Christ.
I'm dealing with something right now.
So I will say that actually I came prepared for this component of the conversation. And Chad, I hope we do get back to the
I know what I said, but it's not true.
The trauma discussion, because I really do think there's some interesting things that we just started talking about. But there's this great paper by Isaac Alschler in the early 1900s, who is a Darwinian biologist who.
Oh yeah, I read that.
Yeah, well, it's I can send it to you. It's a wonderful paper. But he describes kind of lying in nature, and postulates kind of a psychoanalytic description of how and why things lie, and how and why people lie. And then also, I did get some training when I was kind of working for the VA and a little bit the government on kind of how psychologists and psychiatrists can identify liars kind of in interview. So certainly it's a skill set that I don't necessarily use very often, but I was thinking at the end of this or the end of whatever sessions, I could teach everyone here how to figure out if someone's lying during the conversation.
Doctor, you got to understand, it's not just me. It's Kevin, it's Melton, it's everyone.
No, I don't lie. I don't
lie.
No, that's a lie.
You.
No, that's a lie. Chad's saying Chad he puts everyone on this umbrella of we all lie, we all make up shit. That way he's protected because everybody lies. I don't fucking lie.
You don't think Carl in Rochester lies?
What?
You don't think Carl in Rochester lies?
I think we all lie.
You're talking about isolate. Your whole coping thing is everybody lies, so it's okay if you lie constantly because everybody lies. Everybody doesn't lie constantly.
But the fact that you're pinpointing me as the liar when everyone else is lying.
You pride yourself.
Everyone. Ray DeVito lies every 5 fucking seconds.
Adam doesn't lie. Adam doesn't lie.
Okay, Adam.
I mean, little white lies here and there. You gotta.
Doctor, this is
but
trauma.
Adam's been. I've been working with Adam
for the most part, yeah, I'm very honest.
No, you just don't lie. Nobody wants to deal with someone who's constantly lying because then after a while they have no credibility and you get exhausted trying to figure out if they're lying or not.
Kevin, sometimes when I'm telling the truth, you won't even believe me, and I'm like, what's the point?
Because you're a fucking liar. Because I have to assume most of the time you're lying.
If you're not going to believe me, why tell the truth? I'm telling you the truth.
Just for the sake of it. Why tell the truth?
I know what I said.
I tell the truth. I eventually tell the truth.
So interestingly, Alsher talks about the creatures in nature that lie. So if there's a question of self-preservation or self-protection where direct force or strength or escape is not possible, a lesser creature will turn towards deception to survive. So you think about the creatures inevitably that lie
I'm a
in nature.
lion. I'm a lion. I'm not.
Well, so lions don't lie. They don't need to deceive or camouflage or hide themselves. They don't dress up like a stick or look like something else. Apex predators don't need to deceive. They're strong enough and powerful enough to make their way. Interestingly, lying is very much an activity that's engaged in when there's a power dynamic, and that one may not feel they're able to either push back or to escape, and they turn towards deception.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that whenever someone continues to lie, they reinforce a narrative that they're lesser than.
The narrative. Go ahead.
So, and I think one of the ways that you and Kevin work so well is, I actually think that you do like Kevin quite a bit and look up to him, and that you don't really care about the power dynamic very often.
Dude, he struck my channel 3 times. Like, I didn't have my channel for like a week and a half. Well, you had Adam do it.
Yeah, I literally had to give you a timeout because you're a fucking losing liar. Adam, call this episode "Losing Liar."
No, don't.
But I do think that you like Kevin quite a bit, and I think Kevin likes you quite a bit.
No, Levy likes you. Got the love triangle mixed up. Levy's is in love with Chad, and I'm
He blocked
indifferent.
my number. How you block my number?
No, but he's talking about your lips constantly.
I think Levy, like the comedian who you were saying, kind of just prioritizes the outcome, may have been looking for thinking that this would make more money or be more popular when Chad's there, because the outcome being more positive if Chad's involved. But I don't know if I would exactly say that Chad and Levy, at least from my observation, have the same kind of back and forth relationship the two of you do.
No.
Nancram, Canada, 139.99. I hope you're out of the hospital, Nancram. Oh my God, this is breaking my heart. Can't even try good nature ribbing. First of all, nothing's even happened yet. Chad's not even crying yet, Nancram. So wait till Chad starts crying, and then that'll be really amazing. But thank you.
Hey, we also have a $50 one from Chris Mack that apparently was before we started, so it didn't come up. So I just put it on this thing right here. This is from Chris Mack.
How'd you find it then?
He was messaging me. He said it didn't.
Yeah, I know he was in
he got charged for it, but it didn't for some reason.
I know he was in the chat before the show because I checked the show.
Yeah. But I think since we logged on, it like somehow got lost. I don't know. But this was his message.
So Chris Beck, has Chad dressed up as a woman, perhaps in Key West, for pleasure, profit, or otherwise? The scope of this includes shoes, clothing, accessories, and makeup, specifically eyeliner.
Yeah, all of that's true. All of it.
So I do have a question about this.
You do? Jesus.
So it's been my kind of impression that that you have fairly kind of strong relationships with, and I don't mean this in any kind of way other than what I'm saying it. You seem to have very strong relationships with men that you respect. So whether it's kind of when you're in Cleveland or when it's what's his name, Jim Florentine, or the guy you went down to Key West with, you have Swartzen. You have very strong relationships that you preserve. You put effort into. Can you tell me about that?
No, if there's people that are like, I'm a big loyal guy. If you're loyal, I'm loyal back. I'll like, you got my back, I got your back, and that's how I always been. And so the people I keep close in my unit, my circle, they're like people like I'll share everything with, and if they need something, I'll be there in 5 seconds. Because obviously, growing up with trust issues and no loyalty, like I value that more than anything.
Yeah, but Doctor, those are the people that Chad has good relationships with. He's not in business with them, like the people that he does business with, he has fallouts with, whether it's the guy from Alan Cox Radio or me, or
there's more than that with Alan though.
No, but I'm saying like he never went into business with Florentine. He never went into business with Earl Skakel. He never went into business. He's not in business with these guys. So it's some about Chad with money, and I think it's what you said with the lying because it's not an equal relationship. There's a power struggle. If I'm paying Chad or whatever, or if Alex Cox was his boss, he has a problem with those.
He was never my boss, by the way. That guy.
Okay, he was his fucking show. It wasn't a Chad Zumock show.
No, but I was employed by iHeartRadio.
You and Florentine have never been in business together.
We worked together a lot.
Yeah, but he's never been your boss. Chad has trouble with anybody who's Chad has problems with authority. I know that's common. But Chad has problems with authority, especially when they're his boss.
I have trouble.
So, Chad, if you could enlighten me a little bit, can you describe kind of thinking about the people that are in your circle? Are there any commonalities that they share? Any traits that are kind of that repeat in terms of people that you end up putting effort and loyalty into?
They're just solid people. They're solid and dependable. Like, I got friends, a friend from college, my friend from high school. They're all just solid. And I respect that. I want to be a solid guy. I want to be like that. So I look up to people like that.
The friends from college and high school, just generally, you don't need to dox them or anything. What type of work do they do? Are they successful?
Yeah, one's an electrician, one's a teacher, and my other friend was a professional pro basketball player in Europe.
Okay, and then in terms of the comedian friends that you're closer to, would you say in general they're pretty successful and stable?
Yeah, for the most. Yeah, I would say so.
Earl Skakel has 18 people in his Patreon.
But he's solid. He's
a consistent guy. 18.
He's a good guy.
So would you say that they're in general, are they further along in terms of your life goals than you are? Have they been places you want to go in terms of whether it's stability or success or anything like that?
I mean, yeah, to the most part. I mean, my friend who's the electrician is just like a hardcore blue collar guy, and he has a great family. He's a good dad, and it's like, he's just and whenever I'm in town, he's like, dude, come on over, and he's just open door. He's just one of those guys.
So would it be a reasonable hypothesis that you pursue relationships that recreate a power dynamic similar to a father and son, but where you are not in danger and you are not being abused and you're valued?
Exactly.
The cat's in the cradle in the silver
Just
spoon.
answer the question. That's exactly what happens. He wants to create this thing, but there's nothing at stake. There's nothing at stake between him and Florentine. There's not a power struggle.
But I think but Chad, I wanted to get back. Do you see, would that be a reasonable assessment that all these gentlemen could be fatherly?
Possibly. I'd have to dwell on that some more, but it makes sense for what you're saying.
I heard about the story when Florentine was going through the divorce or the death of his, I forget what it was, but
divorce.
You were on the phone with him like every day.
Yeah, because Chad has massive availability. He has nothing going on.
No, because when I got fired from my radio job back home, he was on the phone with me, helping me, and I'll never forget that. Like, he says, don't worry, I'll take you on the road. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Get through this. So when he was going through his problem, I was like, I got to pay it forward, man, because he's struggling and it's like a big brother, little brother relationship, if anything.
Yeah. I think maybe even more so, having absent kind of this role, this figure in your life, someone caring about me just because of who I am, not because of what I have or what I can do for them. That's really what we usually get from a parent.
Yeah.
It was just something kind of interesting to observe that a lot of these men in your life that are valuable to you and that you care very much about all have commonalities of being stable, having kind of fatherly or big brother relationships, and that you don't put things at stake like work or money, maybe because that would jeopardize any of this.
And they also don't want anything from you. Like when Florentine was helping me through that job loss, like I had nothing to offer him. I saw people just walk away. Like I had all these people like on my ass wanting to hang with me, and they just disappear. Same with Kevin's show. The first time around, all the people wanted to hang. My Patreon was blowing up. As soon as he fires me, they all cancel. So I'm like, okay, shed away these flim-flam people.
And by the way, that's another reason why
you're talking about Borgo. I mean, you're talking about everybody.
Yeah, Borgo.
Well, I think that's by the way, another reason why you work well in the dynamic with Kevin, because and Kevin, I don't want to presume, because we didn't talk about me analyzing kind of or having conversation about you specifically, but Chad, you may be looking for someone who's more established, more kind of consistent, stable. Certainly Kevin, at least relatively speaking, fits that space, but Kevin's not looking to be to have those relationships because he kind of jettisoned from this family.
He doesn't want any relationship
Well,
at all.
different relationships, and it's fun to see that conflict between the two of you. Subconscious drives between the two of you in terms of what you want from each other. I think again, it plays well when it's healthy, when it's good natured ribbing on here.
Yeah, but everything plays well when it's healthy, right?
Yeah, true. Until people get scornful and vindictive,
Right?
And
just
wanna
like a marriage plays well when it's healthy. When it's going bad, that's when you need some skills. Talboy, only a Piazza can't beat up his dad at 20. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. Since Chad has trouble with the truth at times, how do we know what's true and what's BS? But Chad, you're doing good so far. Thumbs up. Hashtag conflicted. Wasn't me saying that.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, wasn't me.
So it wasn't me. I hopefully, or maybe it's today, maybe it's another time, I can teach everyone exactly how to figure out if someone's lying or not while you're talking to them. They've done the research. It's a wonderfully straightforward kind of thing to learn.
Okay, let me read some super chats, but I want to hear the
Why are you reading these like $5 ones?
I don't know, because Adam's jumping ahead anyway. If somebody comes in big,
yeah, we got a big one from Broccoli coming up.
All right, Quadfather, why does Chad search for
Hack?
Why does Chad search for black Piazza dong and saunas? Is it because you got turned out by Godfrey, Chad?
So hack.
That's mean.
Get off your ass and do something.
Oh, he cut ahead. I was like, I just clicked on Johnny Carson. Broccoli, want to formally send an invite to the doc. Oh yeah, you're definitely invited. Broccoli wanted to formally send an invite to the doctor to the MLC Super Bowl party. Can't wait. Thank you, Broccoli. It's happening. We're doing it.
Yeah, doctor, you want to go hang out in the lobby?
I don't know if I can do that. That's I'm not sure. Broccoli is certainly enticing, but I'm not sure. I don't think
we got that stripper from yesterday. We're getting everybody from the show. Did you watch her yesterday? Yeah, she's got issues, right?
Who knows?
Could you help her? Like
what a girl in porn has
in one session.
We're working on Chad today.
All right, yeah. No, but just a quick answer. Like it would take a long time with somebody like that, right?
Well, you can do anything with enough time and energy, sure.
Okay. Johnny Carson, an evil step parent and stuck. Johnny Carson, an evil step parent and stuck cleaning all day. Doctor, is there something called Cinderella syndrome? Fuck you to the two sniping hacks, Smelly John and Blow Me C. And also Melton.
So actually, it's so interesting that you say that. A lot of these stories, because the reason we find them so gripping and they stand the test of time, they're talking about these very specific human experiences. Cinderella is a traumatized woman who finds a proxy parent.
Doctor, let me ask you this because it always comes up a lot. Did you watch this TV show Breaking Bad?
No, I actually haven't, and I'm saving it in case I get like a terminal illness or break my leg.
Okay. Like Quadfather. You should watch it because a lot of people say Kevin and I are like Jesse Pinkman and Walter White are dynamic.
You never figured out how to think, did you, Pinkman?
Who's so yeah, Walter White's the responsible, intelligent guy, and what's
right? That'd be me.
What's Pinkman what's his character?
Pinkman's a loser drug addict.
Yeah, well, Walter White's like a cancer victim.
Pinkman introduced him to the world of drug dealing, and then Walter White makes this incredible meth because he's a chemistry teacher, and he needs money because he's got cancer, and he don't have any money, so he's got to provide for his family. So it all makes sense. It gets kind of
Kevin looks like he has cancer.
It's a mess at the end, but the beginning of the show is incredible. The first like season and a half, 2 seasons, or Tuco. I mean, it's the best first 2 seasons of a show of all time.
Spoiler alert: Jesse Pinkman survives. Everyone else dies. Go ahead.
By then, nobody even.
What is wrong with you? I'm really asking.
Furious Chad, if the doctor prescribes a whooping with KB's belt, would you take your medicine?
I think that's a HIPAA law.
Chad doesn't go into Starbucks because he's scared. This is coffee.
Too soon.
This is coffee. Yes, Chad. What if you're with Florentine or Earl and they want to go to do you even go?
Oh yeah.
Do you walk into Starbucks or you do wait outside?
No, when we're on the road, Florentine always goes get coffee. He goes, "You want one?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I'm good."
Does he know your history?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Draper, $2. I want justice for the great credit card thief of Florida.
Who's that?
Agent Zumock, you will let me know when those lambs stop screaming, won't you?
Is that from Platoon?
He's getting 2 movies. He's from Platoon, but he's talking about Signs of the Lambs.
Oh, geez.
All right. Yeah, give us some tells, because I give us the tells on when people are lying.
Kevin, it's 5:00. Just letting you know.
All right.
So actually, before we go into the tells, I wanted to talk a little about the lying, and they mentioned the Kumia country reference.
Yeah.
So interesting in this paper, Alshler observes that small birds that evade capture by larger birds or animals seem to celebrate after the deception is successful. And he postulates that human beings derive pleasure from escape or kind of pulling off the deception. And the way that our nucleus accumbens, our pleasure centers work, things that are pleasurable, we repeat. And usually that's things like consuming calories or reproducing. But if the deception becomes pleasurable, we repeat it because we search for that same dopamine signaling, that pleasure response. And we go back into this idea of the thing we do most often is the thing we're likely to do next. And that deception may even become part of our identity, to where someone starts to lie almost impulsively because they do it so often, and that it usually feels good, and they don't know why exactly they did. But they just tell a story for the sake of deception because
why does it feel good?
We don't know. It's usually colorful or stimulating. There's a performance component to it. There's some imagination that has to be created through the observer. It's almost like performing on stage, and people love performing on stage.
Not Kevin.
That was good.
So you think that so if you met somebody who was lying all the time, you'd be like, they're not a bad person. They're just they're theatrical.
Well, no,
it's performance art for a liar.
No, what I think probably happened is
so I'm a performance artist.
The misdirection started through survival. And Chad, you had mentioned, hey, I got to stay late for school, or I got to go to a sports practice, and it was functional. But then it was, hey, I actually got out of this thing. This worked. And then it starts to repeat, and from function turns into habit. And then it becomes somewhat more impulsive.
And next, it's Kumia's country.
And truly, I think that's the reason that the story was, that may have been the reason that the story was created. There was no secondary gain or anything else. It was just, it's more pleasurable to kind of perform.
How do you know when someone's lying as a professional, as a psychiatrist, or as a like a cop or whatever? What are some obvious things when people are lying?
Sure. So the first thing that you should know is fidgeting does not mean lying. Fidgeting means that it showed kind of in these observational studies, and this is all coming from studies that forensic psychiatrists, profilers, people that work in the FBI and the CIA, this is a huge part of their department, kind of the work that they do, understanding lying. So they did all these prospective studies and found that fidgeting really means nervous, whether or not you're telling the truth. You could be nervous and honest, or nervous and deceitful. There's a correlation between touching your face and lying. Not necessarily causative, but a correlation. So seeing someone touching their face can be an indication, meaning you should be starting to observe that. There's a very specific gesture called the hand shrug. It's an inward and upward movement of the hands, palm up, while shoulders are moving in. So inward,
like this, like I'm not lying, like I'm trying to convince that you should trust me, like
yeah. It's kind of this move. So actually,
like, am I lying? Like yeah, of course I'm telling the truth. That's what I do.
That's what steel toe does.
So palms go inward and upward, and there's a shrug.
Wow.
So it's an
chat. Stop. Chat.
I've never done that my entire life.
But you've probably done everything else.
So what's interesting
is that female? Is that a female gesture, or just they're both?
In general, it's an observed specific kind of and again, this is cultural, so it's for the United States. From once you switch cultures, this kind of dissipates the specific kind of physical movements. But here's where
specific Florida people who lie, because that's like its own country. I mean, everyone's a fucking liar in Florida.
No, they didn't break it down by state. I'm sure somewhere they have that. So, but here's where we're getting into the real stuff. So the cues of untruth, the first ones are called emotional leakage. So lies have strong emotional components to them, and they may flash what we call micro emotions that flash across a person's face for a fraction of a second. So one of the things that we do when we're analyzing somebody while they're talking to us is we're looking for very quick shifts in their emotional expression on their face that then resolve pretty quickly. So it's an interesting thing to see. It's one of the reasons I love watching this show, because it happens constantly with everyone.
Everyone's a liar. I told you.
Well, guess everyone. It's an interesting thing to see. There was that conflict between that gentleman who was in the kind of New York scene that had met John and hadn't met John, and it was saying things, and kind of watching him squirming in kind of the cross-examination when you brought on John. It was just watching him having these micro expressions over and over again. It was very interesting.
Wait, which guy was that?
Are you talking about DG?
No, the gentleman who said that John had smelled.
Oh, Dave Juskow.
Dave Juskow.
Yeah, so when John had come back on, his initial kind of like cross-examination, that Juskow had denied those, that he had said those things initially, and you could watch these microaggressions flashing across his face over and over again. It was interesting.
Wow.
So there's this idea of also duping delight. The term, there's a joy.
Chad, I paid you. Calm down. Stop looking at your phone.
I'm listening. People are sending me like Venmo and shit.
Okay, well, don't look at your fucking phone, you fucking hack.
Sorry, doctor.
It's okay.
Well, you wear a tie, but like I was distracted by a $5 Venmo that
I'm listening.
That little Tiff sent me.
Look,
hey, did Gina Bobina get my account?
I'm listening.
He doesn't have tartar sauce on his face, so you're doing great.
Yeah, I'm paying attention. I can repeat everything back.
So there's a joy and delight when someone who's lying feels like they've gotten away with it. So one of the things that I always do when I'm talking to someone in an interview is I never pursue that someone has lied or not, because I let them think whether or not I know that they're lying, that they've gotten away with it, always watching for delight after a statement. So if they say something that they shouldn't really be joyful about, but then they look somewhat joyful, that micro expression, it's an indication that what they just said was false. There's also signs that liars.
So wait. So if somebody lies and then they get an instantaneous like joy because they got away with it.
Yeah, so we were talking about that before with like kind of these birds that deceive and then they seem to celebrate after the predator passes them over and they survive. When people lie and they get away with it, they enjoy, they have a euphoria afterwards. So for example, I work with lots of people who struggle with substances, and unlike a lot of other physicians, I never try to call someone out. So when I ask, hey, have you been using any substances or any issues with substance use since we last spoke? And if they say no, and I said, oh, that's great, I'm so happy for you, and then I see a delight that doesn't match our conversation, in my mind, I say they're likely misrepresenting their substance use, and then we kind of explore possible reasons for that. But I don't say, oh, you definitely are, and I'm going to get a drug test and all these things. It's using this idea of the duper's delight to figure out when someone thinks they've gotten away with it.
Is that why Chad does the hype train?
No,
after he tells lies on the show, people like do the hype train. You can see Chad doesn't make a lot of money on a show, so it's got to be the joy just lying, just sitting there lying to everybody, and then he's going to do the hype train to celebrate it like a bird avoiding the predator.
The Duper's delight. I said a hip hop.
Duper, yeah, Duper's delight. Call this episode Duper's delight. That's without a doubt. That's a winner.